Give me a keg of beer.
Welcome back to Box Office Maniacs, and it's still horror month, and it's still 2017, I think. And I have a Scream Factory review to bring you today, and that is going to be of Teen Wolf. Now, when they announced this Teen Wolf Collector's Edition, I was like, oh, cool, Teen Wolf. I think I remember that. And it's one of those 80 films that, you know, I used to watch constantly, used to watch over and over and over and over, and I had forgotten, literally I had forgotten how much this movie meant to me. It was just sort of like an impulse buy. I was like, oh, you know, it's horror month, it would be fun to review Teen Wolf since I hadn't seen it in such a long time. I couldn't remember if it was going to hold up as a good film or if it was just going to be terrible. And as soon as I put this movie in, it was 1980 again. It took me back to that time period. Just like music can take you through a time, movies can take me through time. And I sat there and watched this film with a huge grin on my face because I literally had forgotten how much I loved this movie. I love this movie. And I love what Scream Factory did to this. If you see the original cover here, it's awesome. They did such a great job. I wish I would have gotten this earlier and gotten this poster because it's such a great picture here. I mean, I'll bring it up here so you can see it a little bit better. But as Scream Factory normally does, it has the original cover on it as well, which I'll also bring up because I'm not going to show it to you because I'm too far away. But even the original cover is good. But this new cover is great. I love what they did with the new cover. Fantastic painting. Now, this obviously came out after the success of Back to the Future. And like a lot of people back in the 80s, I used to watch Family Ties all the time. I love Family Ties. I love Michael J. Fox. And then, of course, Back to the Future happened, and he skyrocketed to popularity. I mean, he flew up to past the moon. And then I think they said about a week or either a month after Back to the Future was released, this came out, and I went to go see it, riding on the, oh my god, Michael J. Fox is so amazing rocket going to space. And it kind of surprised me about, okay, here is somebody who just made Robert Zemeckis' film that's already a cult classic that's so incredible. Now he's making a werewolf movie? I was like, okay. But I guess back then, even now, you don't understand that sometimes actors will make movies before other movies. And he actually made Teen Wolf before Back to the Future. And I'll get to some of that in the extra here. But yeah, he did. And so he made, you know, the werewolf film. And then after that, he was making Back to the Future. But according to some of the extras, like I said, I'll get into, he was making both at the same time, which I didn't know. And apparently he was still doing Family Ties, so he's doing all three of those at the same time, which is crazy. Yeah, it was weird, because obviously I was a horror fan back then, as I am still now, and as I always will be. So yeah, it was just so weird for him to go do something like Back to the Future and then make a werewolf film. Anyway, I went to go see this, and it just blew me away. And there's so many scenes in here that I forgot about. I literally forgot about that I started remembering when I watched it, and I was like, oh man, this is so great. And I guess the most obvious one was when he got on top of the van and was going down the street to the Beach Boys song. That is so awesome. And here's people in the 80s that are pretending their van is a surfboard and surfing down the street, not hurting anybody, you know, and it looked fun, and it was. And it was one of my favorite scenes, and rewatching it all these years later, I was just like, oh man, that's so great. That is so great. The soundtrack here, the soundtrack is pretty creepy. It has some weird ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. It's this really cool soundtrack. For sort of a lighthearted comedy, you got this really deep, scary sounding soundtrack to it. Basic story here of Teen Wolf, and of course I won't get into it too much, but he is from a family of werewolves, and he starts turning into one, and does turn into one. And the whole concept was just like, okay, that's weird. But what they did with this was great because it's basically a superhero film almost. And there's even a scene in here where his dad tells him with great power comes great responsibility. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's Spider-Man now, you know. But it pretty much is a superhero film with a werewolf in it. And I love that concept. And would it work today, though? No. It would absolutely. This movie would not work today. I know they made an MTV TV show, which I've never watched because it just looked like it was horrible. And I don't want to, stain my memories of this great film watching that pile of junk. But if this movie, like it is now, it could not have been made for what it is now. Because if he turns to a werewolf in this movie, and everybody in the small town thinks it's great, nobody's scared of him. And he becomes basically like a superhero, like a celebrity. Everybody thinks he's awesome. And again, I love that idea. I love that concept. And he's playing basketball. So a lot of the movie is him playing basketball as a werewolf, and trying to win basketball games. So it's kind of a sports werewolf horror movie. And his girlfriend in this is named Boof, and she's great in here. And of course there's Styles, and he's fantastic in here too. Like the whole supporting cast is great, especially Michael J. Fox's dad in here. He, still to this day, I think he's a great actor. And he was so good in this film, and he perfectly cast as his dad in this movie. But getting into the story, like I said, with the cell phones now and the internet and all this stuff they could not, and they talk about it in the extras, they could not have made this movie because it would have been all over the news. I mean, kid turns into a werewolf, he's playing basketball. But you got a little small town and the thing is inside the small town and don't really get out into the public. But now, of course, it would instantly, in 10 seconds, be all over the internet. And I kind of like that. I think it's cool that here's a snapshot in a period of time that when they made this, it was fine. They could do it. Could not do it now unless they kind of reinvented it, and then all the press would come in, the helicopters would be down there, and he'd be hunted as a werewolf, and it would not be the same story. But this is really just a lighthearted, fun story, and that's what it is. It's so fun from beginning to end. I love this movie. I absolutely took me back to when I was in the 1980s watching this, and I can't believe how much I forgot about this film, and I can't believe how much I love this movie, and I forgot how much I love the movie. So the extras here, there's one extra, and it's unusual for Scream Factory to do this, to have one extra, especially on a big movie like Teen Wolf. However, that one extra is like 2.5 hours long. I'm not joking. It is. It's over 2 hours long, and it takes you through the entire history of Teen Wolf. And it's unusual, like I said, for them to do this. I would imagine that they would have split it up. Here, like every other extra, here are the interviews with the actors. Here's the interviews with the special effects people. Here are the interviews with the writers. Here are the interviews with the director. Here are the interviews with the cast members. But they didn't do that. They just put it in one gigantic documentary, and it's amazing. It's incredible. From beginning to end, this thing is awesome. They show style, and everybody is in here, from Boof to Styles to the writers to the director. Everybody's in here except for, of course, Michael J. Fox. I guess they just couldn't get him, or he didn't want to do it, which is really disappointing because it's Michael J. Fox's movie. But what they do talk about, and again, Jeff Loeb was a big comic book fan. If you don't know who Jeff Loeb is, he's gone on to do all the CW movies, the TV shows, superhero shows. He's done all the DC movies. Anytime there's a superhero movie, his name is on there. He's on comics, and he's a big superhero fan. Like I said, everybody's in here. You can see Boof, and they talk about the name Boof and where Boof came from. And she wasn't actually supposed to be called Boof. She actually had a name in the movie, but nobody called her that name. And all that's really interesting. And everything here is good. It's solid, and it's mostly focused on the actors and the writing and the directors. Over half of this is mostly focused on that. How they got the jobs, how they ended up in the movie, how long it took them to make the movie. There wasn't that much talked about the effects. There was a little bit, talking about the makeup effects. They had the guy who did all the basketball scenes in the film, and everybody was in this. And it was so good, so informative. And I am so happy that I picked this up. I gotta tell you, I'm so glad that I picked this DVD up for Horror Month this year, because if you've never seen Teen Wolf, please rent it. If you're a big fan of 80 films or even werewolf movies, this is one of the most original of both. I mean, it's a mixture of great 80s stuff and great werewolf stuff. So overall, between the movie and the nostalgic factor, and there's not even nostalgic factor, it's just still good. It really is just still good. It's not even so much about the nostalgia, but it brought back my memories of growing up and loving this movie. So all of that, plus this 2.5 hour crazy long documentary, all of it gets... So yeah, again, if you've never seen this and you missed it in the 80s, please watch it. You will love it. Speaking of watching things, thank you for watching Horror Month 2017 this year. And we've been cranking out videos left and right. And I just had to get on here and review this one for you because I couldn't pass this one up. And if you've never seen it, and if you watch it because of this review, please let me know because I'd love to hear what your thoughts about it are.